Okay, let's make a couple banners. Banners would be in the header area, the top section of your body, probably in a div with some other stuff. Maybe they would have some, they'd be adjacent to or just above or below some kind of navigation. The reason to make an art-based banner is usually because you have some kind of type that you want to use for your banner. It'd be like if you're H1. But it's really particular, very individual, and you want it just so. And if that's the case, you want to turn it into a piece of art. So we'll also explain how you might put it into your page and how you still keep your H1, but you will then hide the H1. We're going to use Pixlr to do this in this exercise. Now let's imagine that you're on a computer where you have Photoshop, or maybe you've actually used Fireworks, which is a graphics creation tool for the web in particular, or some other graphics creation tool. You can do this exercise in some other tool if you want, as long as you can create a PNG, with transparency and with similar effect. Pixlr, the free version of it, as we're using, has a few limitations, especially when we get to sizing text large. But I think it works pretty well for this use, so I'm going to use Pixlr, and it's free and available to everyone. So regular project folder stuff, download 2 files. You're going to create 2 files. It's going to be in your root folder. And there's instructions here. And I'm going to actually start with part 2. And here we go. By the way, instead of just watching the instructions, I suggest you play along with me and do listen to this video all the way through. Okay, so where we are. Okay, here we are. Pixlr. We're going to create a new image. And I suggest that you name this first one something like text banner. Whoops. And the width, the size of both these things are going to be the same size. We're going to do 960, which is a common page width, and a height of 150. This is, of course, all in pixels. And yes, you do want it to be transparent. And there's your banner. Good. So this first one is just going to be text. I'm going to click on my text tool down here and stick it in here, and I'm going to type my name. Type your name. You type your name. I'm going to select it and change the size up really large. And I'm going to move it around to about the middle of the screen so I can see it. Because I'm not going to use this font, but I want to be able to see the font, see it well as I try different fonts. And here I am trying different fonts, going through them. I would like a font. Now you would be doing this because you had some particular font you really wanted to use, right? And I'm going to choose, maybe I'll choose this script font. That'd be surely something, if you really wanted this script font, that you wouldn't have access to on all the different computers of someone viewing your site, so you probably wouldn't use it in a regular font stack. So this would be a reason you do this task altogether. And now I'm going to continue to change the size of it a little bit. I'm going to bring it up. I want to mostly fill the window. I'm going to make it bigger. Up all the way up to 130. And that's one of the issues with Pixlr. It only allows you to type up to 130 points, it is actually, or whatever, pixels in a way. And also, it doesn't give you some other type tools, at least the free version, that you would have in Photoshop, for instance, like to stretch it out more. We have to stretch it in a different way. But at this point, before we do that, I want you to change the color of it. And I may change the bolding. I want it to be nice and fat to carry the color I'm going to have. You can do what you wish, though. I'm going to change the color. Now, when it comes up, it's probably an HSL, and you can play with this, and this is fine. I'm going to change it to RGB because that's what I like to use, and move this window a little bit so I can see the font up here better. And I'm going to use a kind of a darkish color, kind of a purpley, burgundy kind of color. You make whatever color you want, light or dark, whatever you want to do. I like dark because I'm going to use a lighter background. And I say, okay. And I say OK to that. Now, how can I make this type bigger, right? I don't like the way that cut off, by the way. Well, that's how it goes. How do I make it bigger? Well, one way I could do is I could stick it in the middle here, and I could go to the layer over here in the layers panel, right? And I could do a right click on it, and I could choose rasterize layer. Now it turns that layer into an image, and then I can use edit, free transform. We did something like this earlier on a different project, and stretch it out. Now I don't want to overdo it, but I am going to stretch it quite a bit. Now one of the results of this is it gets a little bit fuzzy, loses a little bit of it's like expanding an image. I want to say yes, I can accept the changes. And get it positioned roughly in the middle like that. Good. Okay, so I made it bigger. And now what else will I do with it? Let's go to Layers panel and choose Layer Styles. See, I am over here. And I'm going to add a drop shadow. No, how about inner glow? No. How about bevel? I like bevel. And if I click on the bevel text, the word bevel, I get more choices. Change the color of the bevel, the opacity of it. I could do something with a shadow in within it or something. Inner outer bevel. Just like that. I don't think I like that. How about full bevel? Ooh, that's kind of nice. And I could do outer glow at the same time. Inner glow, inner shadow, drop shadow. I could go way too far and do too many of these things actually. Maybe I will just do a bevel and a shadow. Even that's probably too much. The shadow, you know, I think I'm going to reduce the distance a little bit to like 3. You can go ahead and play with these as much as you want for different choices. Sorry, there's a shadow. I'm going to reduce the distance a little bit like that. So you do what you wish until you make things look the way you want to, and I'm going to say that's good for me. Okay, so I say, okay, good. And now I'm going to say, well, that's it. I'm all done. That's what I want it to look like. So I'm going to do File, Save. I want it to be a PNG because with different levels of transparency between a shadow and the other plain transparent background and so on. And the name is fine, but I want to put it in my root folder, which you should have already established. So I'm going to go into my root folder. Hold on, I was there already. Here we go. I'm going to save, and there it goes. All right. Now, the instructions will say you can, if you're not crazy about this type, you want to try something different, you can just X this out and start over from the beginning. Giving it a new name. The new name would be, the name I tell you to use is Gradient Banner. Or I'm going to say, I like this text. I'm just going to continue from here. Good. So I can. And I'm going to make a new layer. And I'm going to go to my new layer. I'm going to actually uncheck the other layer, the text layer. I'm on my new, I can go to either of these layers, doesn't matter. Let's go to this one, layer 2. And on my new layer, I'm going to add a gradient. Here's the gradient tool right here. Oh, hold on just a second. In your instructions, it talks about first loading that banner one. So let's do that. We'll leave this here and we'll come back. Good. So I'm going to go to my banner and I'm going to go to banner 1. I'm going to edit that. Here it is. What does this look like? Run launching Chrome. It's the same file we've used a number of times. Good. At the top of near the top of the, here, I've got an IMG started for you. And I've given it an ID and a source and an alt. Good. And this is where you're going to put the source. Now, what did you call that first banner? You called it something like your name, and then I'm going to save this text banner. Good. I'm going to save that and run it. And there's our banner. Very nice. Okay, what else can we do to this? We should put in the alt text, right? The alt text would be and you would do your own alt text. And we could use a we could set the width and the centering with this header div, right? And here's the header div. What could we say? (960 pixels. We could do that. And we could do a margin auto for centering. And the other thing we want to do is we have an H1, right? Now, your name here, you put your name here. Check down to my name. Good. Okay, we'll save and run that. Okay, good. My centered and sized banner, fine. But my name is already up here. Why do I care? Well, I want that name to be there in the H1 because I want it there for SEO. But I could go here instead and say display. There's a couple ways to hide things. This is an easy one. I'm going to run that. And now my H1 is gone. My banner is in its correct position. I could do more work if I want to with maybe some other margins or one thing or another to move things around a little bit, but I'm all set with there. So this first part of the file is done, and we're going to continue along. If you remember, I was in Pixlr. Here I am. I still have my text, right? But now I'm going to add a gradient. I grab the gradient tool, and I click in the gradient color area. And if I click on the first end of the gradient, and then I click on color, I can choose a color here. Again, I could use any of these tools to choose it. And I'm going to do a lightish colors. I'm going to do a light kind of, whatever you call that. Anyway, and say OK. So I establish the first end of my gradient. I'm going to click on the other end of my gradient. I'm going to choose color again, and I'm going to choose something in the bluish. Yeah, no, not that much of that. Yeah, that's kind of gray, isn't it? It's not very interesting. Maybe something pinkish, like that a little bit. Something like that. Let's try that. Good. I have my two ends of my gradient set. I could go through these and do some special work with these. These are already preset gradients that then you can edit if you want to. I like just starting from scratch like that. And now if I click out, that goes away. I have other choices here. I can customize my gradient if I wish. You can play with these if you want. And now with my gradient tool selected, if I draw a line in here, there's my gradient. But realize you can draw a line different ways. I can just draw a little line. I get mostly that end. I could just draw a little line over here. I get mostly that end. I could draw the line this way or at an angle. I'm just going to draw a normal line here, roughly straight across for a normal kind of gradient. You do what you wish. And you could choose a radial gradient or other things. I'm going to say that's my gradient. And now I'm going to add my text back, and I'm going to move my text to the top of it. And if I wanted to, I could go to my gradient layer, and I will, I think, and choose my options and reduce the opacity of it a little bit. And you can do more things and more things and more things if you want. I'm going to do a file, save, which actually can save as. I'm going to give it a new name. This is going to be called Gradient Banner. I'm going to save it again as a PNG, so I get that transparency. I can see it applied. Size is nice and small. Say OK, and put it in this spot. And now I'm going to go open up my other page. Okay, I did all the same things we've done before. I added in my image and my alt text. Now it's a gradient banner, right? And I gave it a display none for H1. But the other thing in this case is I gave the banner ID. I gave that IMG an ID, and I gave it a width of 100%. So let's run that. It looks like you would expect, right? But what happens if I make it narrow, smaller page? Look at the banner shrunk, and I didn't get my horizontal scroll bar, as opposed to the previous one, right? Look at it, the banner doesn't shrink. And that's something to think about. Using the width of an image at 100%, it will get smaller as the page gets smaller. That's the end of the assignment. You could, of course, do lots more things, other kinds of textures and backgrounds and little images and so on to make it fancy if you wish.